Tuesday, May 27th, in the year 2020. Pursuant to Governor Abbott's temporary suspension of open meetings laws issued on March 16th, 2020, this regular board meeting of the West ISD Board of Trustees will be conducted via video conference and telephone call. The video conference will be audible to the board and to the public and allow for two-way communication. The Board of Trustees will not be physically present in one location, but a quorum will be required for the meeting on the video conference or phone. A recording of the meeting will be available on the West ISD website under Board Archived Meetings and Agendas and on the West ISD YouTube channel. The public may have access to this meeting via Zoom. That link can be located at the West ISD website, www.westisd.net. The meeting ID and the password is located there. The Zoom meeting link is also provided at the West ISD website under Calendar section of the website. An electronic copy of the agenda may also be viewed. This link is also located at the West ISD website, www.westisd.net. Any public comments must and should have been submitted between 8 a.m. on Tuesday, May 26th and 4 p.m. on Wednesday, May 27th, 2020 by emailing the comments to publiccomment@westisd.net. All public comments shall be submitted to this email address and be read to the Board of Trustees for this consideration. I now call this meeting to order and verify that a quorum of board members is present, that this meeting has been duly called, and that notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. At this time, I would ask you to please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance led by Lee Crawshaw, followed by the prayer offered up by Holly Willis. And the flag is there behind Mr. Truitt's shoulder.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Lord, as we begin our meeting today, we thank you all for your blessings, or for all of your blessings. We thank you for the completion of another successful school year. We thank you for giving our administrators, faculty, and our staff the strength to push through during this pandemic and continue to instill faith in our students and parents by assisting during these difficult times. We pray for grace and balance as we begin to plan for the next school year and navigate these uncharted waters. We pray that we make the best choices for our students and staff members and always keep them in our hearts and minds. We also pray for the graduating senior class of 2020. Give them the confidence and strength to achieve all of their goals. In your name we pray, amen.
Thank you very much, Lee. Thank you very much, Holly. That brings us to the audience portion. Amanda, do we have anyone send any? Let me find you on there. Did we have any questions for our audience portion? All right, great. That brings us to agenda item number 6 there on your agenda. It's a report for the 2021 West ISD Scholastic Calendar and the Texas Education Agency's COVID-19 response recommendations. This is going to be reported to us by Mr. Truitt.
Thank you, Dr. Sparks. It's good to see everyone. I thought I would give you a Cliff Notes version of the different information I've been emailing you from Commissioner Morath as he holds the mini webinars and sends out the mini PowerPoints handouts, suggesting that we should be looking at ways to adjust our school calendar for the 2021 school year and coming up with a COVID-19 response plan according to some suggestions and ideas that he's been generating with test groups and committees. And I typed up for you kind of a 3-page summary behind the calendar, and I'll reference the calendar in addition to hit some highlights and then give us a chance for discussion. You can see I've got 3 headers: purpose, background, calendar formula, and then actually a 4th, response to TEA and then some things to consider for our next steps as we head into the June board meeting. As you can see, kind of the parameters are obviously as we move into school next August, we need to be prepared and have contingency plans for short-term disruptions and possibly high student absenteeism, with even some students consistently absent from school. And so you've heard a lot in some of the information I've sent you that TA has been recommending some plans and things for us to consider. And I think obviously it's our responsibility that I can't be short-sighted in the thinking that this won't possibly affect West, and we need to be ready with some calendar scenarios and plans in case we have to implement them. And for me, I think that's where I am with this. I think if we have plans and they're communicated and thought through and approved in layers on an as-needed basis based on our data and the health of our kids and staff, we've got to remember the staff piece. We can do different pieces of the plan when it's called for. And you can see I took that one graphic from their PowerPoint and put in the middle of areas that they want us to consider in our planning. There's the parent-teacher support piece, school operations, curriculum instruction, student attendance, communications and change management, and then your piece, local board approval and consideration of the plans. You can see in that next section that I put a summary of some of the slides I provided for you that TA is recommending we review 3 ideas. The optional summer learning plan, which is an additional 30 days of school in June of summer intervention, more rigorous and broad stretching to all students than just what we would do in a targeted summer program like we do now. There's the intersessional calendar, which is additional 30 days, and you can see a pattern there that he's recommending the 30 days because of the House Bill 3 funding, which I'll talk about here in a moment. So on the intersessional plan, this is the one I've been emailing you about that you hear him pushing the most about starting school in early August and going through the end of June, but having 3 significant intermittent breaks in the school year. And you can even see in his sample calendar that he has it broken out in some different ways. He recommends October and at Christmas and then at spring break. But districts are looking at different places in their calendar where it fits best. Full year redesign, this is the most radical of his suggestions because in addition to the 30 days, it's really going to a year-round schooling program with 7 6-week grading periods. And the increased time, you can see that he's really been talking a lot about how it increases teacher planning time, including student play or recess or breaks per se. And so when I get on the webinars on Tuesday and Thursday, he always starts with updates about these 3 ideas. And he's been having superintendents from around Texas that have been doing similar plans share their calendars and impact on student learning and now student health moving forward. And it's given us a chance to ask questions. I added this background section because I wanted to remind you a few things in addition to the calendar formula piece, because I think it's important you understand the way the calendar works and some of the things that have come through 2 House bills recently. On House Bill 2610 from 2015, remember we switched from calculating by school days to instructional minutes, and I know you all know that, so that's just a reminder that now our goal every year is to have a calendar with 75,600 minutes. And as you know, we go way over that. But that's the minimum you can go and get funding, full funding for your school year. So if that equates to 174 school days with your kids or 169 or 184, whatever it is, remember for teachers, it still must total 187 per their contracts. You can't go less. You go more, can't go less. And so keep that in mind that when we talk about those instructional minutes, that's over the number of instructional days we've laid out on our calendar. Our current calendar has 169. In the old days, before House Bill 2610, you might have 180 days. And so you're always within that window of what you're doing. And usually those missing days between the 186 and 187 and the 169 I was giving you for example are usually work days and professional learning days or flex days and of that nature. House Bill 3 is new. We had to do training on it when it came through in 2019. And remember, this is about Marath's plan for half-day funding to get schools to go longer into the summer. He studied other schools in places in Europe and in Asia. He recognizes that over the summer, some learning gaps are created, momentum from the end of school slows down, and we're playing catch up usually in August. And so he loved to see us go through the end of June. And so we kept telling him in these superintendent meetings that without funding, teachers, we struggle to even find teachers for summer school, let alone to ask them all to work another 30 days. And House Bill 3 only provided half-day funding, but it's a step in the direction of trying to figure out how we can pay folks to work those days. And so it takes it from 180 days to 210. And then it was, of course, targeted for elementary schools is the other caveat. And then you can see as we go to page 2 of my packet, it says due to the statute start date, and that ADSY is the additional days of the school year. That's the acronym, and I forgot to say that on that previous section. The problem is this doesn't apply, and you can see, to the summer of 2020. So despite all this planning, you can see that the earliest it goes into effect is next summer of 2021. So really, we're just talking about what it could be for next summer. This summer wasn't an option, so I wanted to make sure you knew that. Also, the next bullet point is one that greatly concerns me as we talk about rearranging our calendars and what I'll call backloading them into the summer, because he has told us, and I just typed this in there based on my notes from his meetings, that they're not looking at changing the STAR testing windows or dates. And so lost instruction through our calendar planning or even through COVID-19 is just lost instruction. The test dates are still the test dates, and if we're adding 60 days, for example, and that's a dramatic number, after STAR, it's after STAR. And so that's something we got to keep in mind about figuring out how we can bank days and make sure we have as many instructional days to get through the entire year's curriculum, which is the goal, at a mastery level before they take their STAR tests in the spring. So I wanted to remind you that if he was going to move STAR to the end of June, I'd be like, guys, we got to go for this because we get all those extra instructional days before the test. But right now they have no plans to move it. And then that final bullet point in that section, I wanted to remind you that we already get through our DOI plan, our District of Innovation plan, the exemption to start school before the 4th Monday in August. So that's already taken care of. And we've had a calendar every year since we put our plan in place back in 2017. To have school usually on a Wednesday because we like the short start week, and usually we go for the 2nd or 3rd week in May, which is usually around the 2nd or 3rd Monday in May, obviously. On the calendar formula, I think it's important you remember how all this is calculated as we have this discussion. So the 187 days for next year's calendar is broken down in 169 days with the kids, or what they call instructional days. There's 13 staff development and work days, or what's red on that calendar I gave you. And then there's 5 flex days, which is gray. Remember, we've gone through a lot of discussion about the flex days in particular to reward our staff for really the summer PD, for the required trainings, the GT update training, and then all the many times we asked them to stay after hours throughout the school year. We track those hours through Eduphoria so they can get back those days for all the time they give us outside of 8 to 4. So it's just a way to say thank you to the teachers for giving us your time away from your families. We're going to track that time and tag it to these flex days, and then they can use that for PD and things. So that's how we get to 187 for next year's calendar, 169 plus 13 plus 5. All right, so I wanted to make sure we knew that. All the green on our calendar, the holidays, do not count. So it's everything between August 19th and May 21st. That has gray, that's white for an instructional day or are red for PD or work days. And then, as I mentioned previously, the 75,600 would be then calculated over those 169 instructional days. So our total is 79,051 minutes. And that's what we're banking, as I like to call it, and you'll hear TEA call it that, for next school year. That figure includes 2 state waiver days for PD and 2 early release days. So if our formula is 466 minutes a day, they just simply half that on the early release days that we have at Christmas and the last day of school in May, and they give us 333 minutes for those days. And so all added up, this is what Kayla submits through PEAMS, and that's what we get our funding based off of. So that 79,051, you can see in that second paragraph, means we have 7 days banked to use for COVID-19 planning already in our calendar. So we're already starting on the plus side, on the positive side, with 7 days. So we can go a week and 2 days and not have to make anything up because we already have that ready to go. All right, so you remember that number because we're already starting at 7, even if we don't change anything else in our 2021 calendar. All right, and so as you can see in the rest of that paragraph, we've got to have 2 inclement days. And then I also wanted to make sure you notice that this year we were gifted with a waiver called the Missed School Days waiver. I've already submitted it. It's already been approved, and it was for 46 instructional days that we missed due to COVID-19 following spring break. So it was an entire 9-week grading period. All right, and you can see the dates there from March 17th through May 20th. Abbott has already made sure, along with Morath, that we know that that is not an option for 2021. So we will not get a gift of a waiver for whatever number of days. We have to earn back those days. So if we have a COVID-19 break of 7 days or 37 days, we would have to make them up. And that's the premise of why you hear Morath saying, hey, look at your calendars, because we've got to have a plan in place. Okay? All right, on the response to TEA, as we've talked and as I've sat in on these superintendent meetings, these are the different ideas that you see going. The ones that TEA is recommending, several are doing the optional summer learning because it's just a way to get staff and kids and intervention going in June. The intersessional calendar with the breaks is picking up some steam. I was telling Mr. Klander earlier, I don't know of a single Region 12 school that has a calendar prepared for this. I know several are toying with some breaks and days and dates. He had sent me one from Grandview, who we play, but they're actually a Region 11 school, so they go with the Fort Worth folks, and so more of a urban setting, and they've already crafted a calendar with the 3 breaks. I don't know of no one in our area that's looking at the redesign because that truly is year-round school.
David?
Yeah, go ahead.
I attended a webinar where they were talking about that topic of getting away from the agrarian calendar. Mm-hmm. And a lot of it was about equity of education. And mm-hmm. they were really talking about how if we move away from that, it will be better for our special ed kids because we've got kids who depend on the routine, and then we have these long summers that throw them off and we have to come back and help them get back in there, where these shorter breaks would be much more beneficial for them. They had several other examples, but that was the big one that caught my attention. And, I'd never thought about equity of education in the way that they were talking about it. It was really interesting, but a big talk, and I was surprised about how the pushes seems to be coming for that.
Leah, I could see the state heading this way, but it's going to take a state mandate through legislative action, in my opinion. I could cite many positives, like your webinar said, about why it's good for kids, but at the end of the day, you have to have teachers willing and families willing to make this rather radical change in their eyes for a calendar. You're not going to see, I believe, many people go to it voluntarily, at least for another year. And then when a legislative session comes up, I could see it being included in some sort of a Senate and House bill situation. because I know Commissioner Morath wants this. It's the whole reason behind House Bill 3, and every webinar we attend, it's the #1 topic he brings up. So it's not necessarily a pet project of his at this point. I think he's setting the stage for future mandates, and so we've got to be ready for that. I think our struggle for putting this in place here for August is a lot of unknowns. And you know, I don't want to be reactionary. I want to have our contingency plans ready. But this has a big piece with our staff and the contracts they just signed, and understanding what their work schedule is. And we have not communicated that, and we've got to get this prepared for the next round so they know what's to be expected of being a staff member in West ISD. Also, I think parents need to know so they can appropriately plan. I think parents misunderstand those breaks, though, Lee. The way the commissioner is explaining it, it makes it sound like they're going to have these vacation times. And remember, the intent is you take those days back if you have a COVID-19 situation in your district. So it's not like a parent can plan a trip to Disney World on the February break, because if you have an outbreak, you're in school on those days. And so there seems to be a misunderstanding where parents are like, oh, we get these big long breaks throughout the year. This is awesome. Well, yes, unless you have a health issue, and then you're in school possibly on all those breaks. The calendar that I really think you're talking about is more the year round, where you have the set days and we're not in a COVID-19 situation where we can have instruction going on all year without any interruption. I really believe those are two different things, because we know our kids come back with less than they had in May, and children of poverty, as we've delivered food bags, we see where they live and what they're doing all summer, and where are they going to eat, sleep, all kinds of tough family situations. So we know, we absolutely know that happens across West ISD. Sorry, that was long-winded. On the response to TEA, some of the things that Region 12 is considering in our meetings is moving up the first day of school in August. And you can see, just as an example, right now we're looking at starting on the 19th. If we wanted just to reclaim 2 days, bank 2 days, you could move it to Monday the 17th. And another example, you could move it to Wednesday the 12th if you wanted to, and bank 5. And so you see a lot of districts just moving up their first day of school, just trying to get some more days in the bank. And then you can see the second bullet points is switching out staff development days and flex days for instructional days. And I gave you examples in there of October 16th, 19th, January 5th, February 15th, and March 15th. All 5 of those could be easily switched to instructional days, and then we banked another 5. And so you can see, just as we add these up, I already told you that we're starting with 7. So even if we just move the 2 at the start of school, that gets us to 9, and here's 5 more, suddenly we're at 14, and we're right at almost 3 weeks of school that we can reclaim in case there's a problem. Now that's the key, in case there's a problem. If we don't need them, there's still holidays or PD days. It's if we need them, we reclaim them, but we've just identified them for our parents and staff so they know as we need them, we'll use them. The third example is instructional minutes. This one's getting a lot of attention across Texas, because if you just add 15 minutes, as you can see in the example on my sheet, you're banking another 15 days. And all of our staff members that are on the Zoom tonight can tell you the kids are already at our school. They're in the cafeteria, they're in the gym at the elementary, they're going to rooms at secondary, they're all over the campus. We could start school 15 minutes early and not miss a beat. The kids are already all there. Very few are showing up. The buses get them there 45 minutes before school begins, so they're there. We could do breakfast on the go or in a bag. CDC guidelines are saying they can't all wait together in a gym or cafeteria anyway, so we're going to have to send them on the class probably per the guidelines. We might as well start school instead of just having them sit and wait for the bell to ring. So we can reclaim up to 30 minutes. 15, 20, 30, 20 gets us to 7 days, 30 gets us to 10. And so keep adding that to the numbers I already told you, and suddenly we're at 4 weeks, almost 5. And so that's the way you got to look at this. The danger of going to 30 from my teachers that are on this webinar tonight, or excuse me, Zoom conference, they only have 30 extra minutes built into their day. And so if you take all 30, you're pretty much telling them to report and bam, be in your room with kids, and that doesn't work. Doing 15, that gives them a chance to get there, open their door, get settled, and then kids start showing up. So you have to think about that time, especially whatever you set it for in the AM. PM, it's a little different because you're saying get in the cars, get on your bikes, get on your bus, you're leaving. And then bam, teachers can go once the kids are all gone. But in the mornings, they start showing up before 7 a.m. And so we got to be there and ready if we're going to use those minutes on the AM side. All right, on the next page, bullet point 4 for this section, we could also just look at, and this is a very traditional approach, if we have 17 days banked, but we need 23, you know, what do? You just add days after the last day of school is set on your calendar. So if we need, say we need 9 more days, we would in school on May 21st, so then we go those 5 days on May 24th through 28th, and then we go June 1st, June 2nd, June 3rd, and June 4th. And so we just get out on the 4th. And so if we need to make up 11 days, we go to June 8th. It just means you add. Other districts have looked at doing Saturdays. There's even a school that we just heard from in the webinar with Morath on Thursday that's doing half-day Saturdays for the entire school year just to bank their minutes. I personally am not a fan of that plan, but that's what they want to do and their community's on board with it. But Saturdays are something you can do. Some are just adding instructional minutes in the fall, and then they take them away in the spring because they banked them, and if they don't need them, then they're not going to use them, so they're not going to make the kids keep coming for that extended time. So there's many different ways you can do this program. I added a 5th bullet point that says reviewing the plans for all of our before and after school intervention programs, extended day programs, home learning plans, for school closure time, summer programs, and even bridge programs, which we're seeing some districts look at for an August time period. No matter what, we have to do bullet point 5. Lee nailed it about lost instructional opportunities and that lag time when they're away from school and how they come back with less than they had in May. And we're going to have to start thinking of summer in different ways. If Amanda unmuted, she would tell you that our summer programs are only about credit recovery. It's not about intervention. It's not about restoration of learning gaps. It's not about bridging learning. It's about promotion and high schoolers in particular earning credits. So we have to totally rethink the way we use summer, but that takes staff. And to date, I don't mean this to be critical of our staff because they work hard all year long, August to May. We ask a lot of them. The last thing they want to do is work June or July. And then for peanuts, because it's usually not a daily rate, it's usually an hourly rate. And so we've got to think through all of that and look at grants and some of this House Bill 3 initiatives. So on the next steps, I can't ignore the COVID-19 school closure possibilities of next year. We've got to have plans in place. We got to be proactive. I've given you several ideas, and we're going to come up with as a team, some things to send out in a survey to get feedback from our staff and parents about the order in which they want us to bank these days. And then I'm going to bring you sample calendars on June 10th for a regular meeting for us to look at as a team of 8 based on that feedback, so I can show you what we've come up with and how many days we can bank. So I just wanted to give you an update so you could hear from me what Morath's been sending out. That was a lot. Do y'all have questions I can answer?
David, did they address anything as far as preventative, like spacing in the classrooms, you know, the social distancing and stuff? Because it's tough with that many kids in a classroom to be able to get 6 feet on either side.
It is. I know all of you have probably seen the CDC regulations that came out about 2 weeks ago. We need to remember that CDC versus what TEA is saying are 2 different things. TEA's only provided guidance on summer programs or summer school, and then the UIL's given us guidance on strength and conditioning programs, and then going into the school year. Otherwise, we've received nothing from TEA other than this calendar piece for 2021. So the CDC piece, like y'all, I printed it out and I started highlighting the ones that we could easily implement. And the two that caught my eye, one of them is what you just said, Dr. Sparks, about the number of kids and the social distancing in classrooms, and then the one kid per seat on the bus. We could pull off the AM, PM, or having A days and B days where some kids are at home and some aren't. But I know our community like you know our community, and that's not a good formula for us sending kids home to possibly empty homes. I know some districts are looking at families that have a situation where there's a stay-at-home somebody and those kids go home for virtual learning, but I don't have data for that. But anytime you send kids away from the building, we're just hurting instruction. So those three things they keep throwing out keep me up at night. The rest of it we could do. Anything else on the list that we couldn't accomplish? And I'll commit to bringing that list to the June meeting so I can show you what I mean and how we would accomplish the things on it. Talk to Chuck and Mr. Clander and Ms. Cosda about many of their things about lunch in the classroom, breakfast in the classroom, not having large group social gatherings, assemblies, where they meet when they arrive school, getting them off campus, only having one-way situations in hallways. I mean, everything in the plan, the masks, everything you've seen, we started to have conversations about.
Good.
And the big one, Larry, since you mentioned it, is Mrs. Cosda and I were talking about this just yesterday. We're going to face two things in the fall, guys. We're going to have staff that aren't ready or can't come back because of medical reasons, and they may even have kids of their own in that situation. And then we're going to have families that aren't ready for the similar reasons. And so either we risk some setbacks in our Race to an A or our ESF plan and what we are trying to accomplish to move west from good to great, or we can just accept that we may have some kids that we lose to homeschooling or other programs, virtual programs, or we can respond with our own. And if we don't respond, we will see enrollment drop, in my opinion, and we will have challenges with staff and how we can help them with the situation if we don't come up with a more robust home learning plan than what we just had out there for the last 10 weeks. Not to say that wasn't a good plan. We did the best we could, but that relied heavily on the parents as the instructional piece with support from the teachers. I'm talking about West ISD getting in the virtual learning business so that we have an alternative for our families to say, if you want this option, here it is. And it's as equivalent as we can to having you in our school from 8 to 4 each day. And we're having lots of talks about how that could look and who we have that could assist us with that. Because that's the piece we have to figure out.
Yeah. Good.
Okay, so that was just a discussion topic. We'll bring some calendars, and I'll bring the CDC guidelines to June so we can talk through our planning pieces that we're getting ready for in August.
All right. Very good. That brings us to agenda item number 7, which is a report on the West ISD healthcare planning presented by Charles.
Good evening. As you all recall, the district has been looking at alternatives to our current healthcare from TRS, and we've done our due diligence. We found a company that would write us a plan. We found very favorable rates out. Of course, the rates wouldn't be final until we really passed on data to them to where they can make those determinations. But it does look like there's quite a bit of interest. So at this point, if we choose, or if y'all choose, we would release a request for proposal for healthcare services.
All right.
There's tons of stuff out there.
Good.
I think it's beneficial for us to move forward.
Okay. Thank you for looking out for the staff and stuff.
Yes, sir.
Is there any questions for Charles before we move on? Okay, everybody's in favor of saving money and having better coverage. All right, that brings us to agenda item number 8, which is an action item. It's a consideration of possible action by the board to approve the request for proposal method for the procurement of alternate uniform group health care and wellness coverage programs and plans. Again, that's Mr. McKeska.
And this is the item asking the board, the administration would recommend that the board allow us to release a request for proposal and seek that additional coverage and just explore the options.
Okay. Any questions before I call for a motion? If not, the floor is open for a motion to address agenda item number 8 as presented by Mr. McKeska.
So moved.
Lee has made the motion. Is there a second to the motion? John Crowder, I see his hand goes up with the second of the motion. All those in favor, please show of hands or voice. All right, looks like 7-0, Lee, as best I can tell. All right. Agenda item number 9 is also an action item. It's consideration and possible action by the board to adopt a new shared services arrangement with Lorena ISD, appointing West ISD as the fiscal agent for the purpose of application and use of grant funds relating to the Career and Technical Education, CTE. Mr. McKeska, would you tell us about that?
Yes, sir. This, if you recall, was an agreement, or these monies are given to us. These are federal funds that come through what we call the Perkins Grant and formerly flowed through the Service Center. 2 or 3 years ago, we created a co-op with China Spring, Lorena, and ourselves, making China Spring the fiscal agent. China Spring has notified us that they no longer want to participate. They're at the point where they can be their own and they don't have to combine forces with us. So Lorena ISD and West ISD would like to combine and form a new SSA, making West the fiscal agent.
Okay. Very good. Are there any additional questions for Mr. McKeska other than what he's explained? If there are no questions, I would ask for a motion to address agenda item number 9 as presented by Mr. McKeska. Mike, I see your hand is made the motion. Holly, did you second it? Okay. Holly seconded. All those in favor, please show of hands or voice. 7. All those opposed, same sign. 7-0, Lee. All right. It is now. I'm sorry. Did someone say something?
Charles was saying thank you.
Oh, thank you, Charles, for your work. I have 7:07. At this time, we will adjourn into closed executive session pursuant to Texas Government Code Chapter 551071, 551129, 551074, and 551072. Those of you in the audience, if you'll just bear with us, we will be back shortly and resume from our closed executive session. All right.
Host again.
Okay.
There it is.
Are we good to go, Amanda? Okay.
Yes. All right. Now that we're recording, we're on number 11 for our guests and those following along on the agenda.
Let's change that time to 7:38. I'm sorry.
That's fine.
Yes. Nice catch. 11A is action. Tonight I'm seeking your approval for the personnel report as presented.
All right, floor is open for a motion to accept those items as were discussed and presented by Mr. Truitt.
So moved.
Holly's made the motion, Lee's seconded the motion. All those in favor of the motion as presented, please show of hands or by voice. Those opposed, same sign. Okay, there are none. 7-0. Mr. Truitt, 11B.
All right, this is a section of the agenda I love, along with recognitions and the after IHOP party with the pancakes. 11B is always great news because we're bringing new Trojans and Lady Trojans to the team. And so tonight I'm seeking your approval onto outstanding future members of the West Elementary School leadership team. I'm asking for your approval of Leanna Sexton and Misty Cook to help Ms. Cosda continue to do great things at West Elementary.
Floor is now open for a motion to accept as presented. Who wants the honor? Jason, I see Jason's
All right.
hand first. And then John, I saw a second by you. All those in favor of the motion, please show of hands. Yay. All right, 7. So those opposed, same sign. There are none. Hi, Leanna. Hi, Misty.
Way to go, Misty and Leanna. Welcome to the
Congrats.
team. We love you guys.
Congratulations, guys.
Y'all don't have to speak. We're not going to put you on the spot. But if you don't, no. Welcome. We're thrilled to have you guys. We know you do wonderful things for our students and staff. Thank you all.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Mrs. Cosda, thank you.
We know
Okay,
we'll
I know I'm probably not supposed to talk, but y'all have no idea of how excited I am. This is going to be a great year. Thank you, thank you.
We're excited about you, and we're excited for you also. So this is a great thing. Thank you so much. All right. That concludes our agenda for action items. The next thing we have is agenda item number 12, which are the reports and closing remarks by Mr. Truitt.
I only have 2 things for tonight, and they're going to pale in comparison to the news for Misty and Leanna, who again, I'm thrilled for West Elementary in the 2021 school year. You guys can't get in your offices soon enough. First one to let y'all know, our presentation with Claycomb was selected for the virtual SLI. So if any of you guys, I'm going to send an email and I'm going to ask if any of y'all want to assist with being a part of that with me and Jolie Willis, who you've all met. I wasn't sure if we'd still be a part of that, but obviously it's virtual, so we can type setting like this. So I'll see if any of you guys want to join the fun. And then the second thing is graduation. I included my email for May 25th in your packets to see if y'all have any questions since it's Saturday at 7:30. Lee pointed out a problem on the health sheet, so I'm going to send you an updated version of that. You guys, I know you're board members, but you still have to do the health check and have your temperature taken. I would wear masks in and out of Trojan Field. When you get to your seats, you can remove them if you want to. Obviously, we've talked about the dress. I shared that Mr. Garrick is going to give a diploma to one family member. Otherwise, Dr. Sparks has the stage for the entire time, except for that one switch out. Your seats are with me on stage right, or if you're facing the stage on the left, and we'll be socially distanced there 6 feet apart. I suggest arriving between 6:30 and 6:45 because of parking, but also to get you through the lines so you can be in place. I'm going to be out helping, so I've asked Amanda and Carla to be there to make sure you guys know where to go and what's going on. I'm envisioning we'll have folks upset with checks and things and the tickets, so I need to be available to help calm some folks down. So look for Amanda and Carla if you have questions.
And are we telling everybody to wear a mask that is mandatory until they are seated and before they can get up and move around?
Well, I don't know about mandatory because y'all know that's a challenge. We have them. We're going to recommend it. We're going to ask them, but I'm not asking the police to remove them if they don't know.
And are people that are doing temperature checks and are going to be exposed to those guys that may not have a mask? Or they're going to have an N95 and not just a general that'll really help protect them over just a generalized cloth one?
That is an easy remedy because we have boxes upon boxes of those. So yes, I'll make sure Terry has those for her team.
And I would say you too, moving in and out of the crowd, David, because you're going to be exposed to people who don't have them. So whoever's in, I think they need to have those N95s, not just a generalized, whomever it is.
I have enough to give them to all of our staff that are volunteering for the 4 entry stations. And I'll even offer them to the police. So we've got 7 officers coming because we will need them.
And you too, yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
All right, any other questions that I can answer? It's going to be an exciting night. The weather went from looking horrible just 2 days ago to now we've got upper 70s and sunny. It's going to be a beautiful night on the incredible Trojan Field. So can I help with anything else, or does everybody feel comfortable with where you're going to be and what you're doing? All right, then Dr. Sparks, that concludes my closing announcements. Congratulations again to Misty and Leanna. Go West.
Yeah. Go Trojans, yay. All right. It's time for adjournment. Is there a motion that we adjourn this meeting? Who wants to make the motion?
So moved.
Okay, Holly. Lee, I heard your voice. You're seconded. All those in favor, show of hands. Bye. Good night, everybody. This meeting is adjourned.